Fun fact, you can use apple cider vinegar if you have canker sores inside your mouth. It hurts like a mother, but it works. Just dab a little bit on a cotton swab or a Q-tip, dab it on, and there you go. Have water on the side because it hurts. But it works. Hello, my little filmer dudes. My name is Ivan Montero, and thank you for joining my journey to watch every TV show ever created. Not really, but we are gonna get close. I just finished watching Netflix's newest limited series, Apple Cider Vinegar, and this was on my radar for quite a while. And honestly, this was only on my radar because of Kaitlyn Dever. Now, if you don't recognize her, you might know her from projects like The Last Man Standing, Booksmart, or Dopesick. But she might also be on your radar because she was cast as Abby for this year's The Last of Us Season 2. Now, honestly, those are big shoes to fill, and after watching this show, honestly, I think she could do it. Now, that's not a testament on the series itself. The series isn't good, but Kaitlyn Dever was fantastic. But again, that isn't to say that the overall delivery isn't the same, because it wasn't. But I do have to give props to Kaitlyn Dever for really portraying someone completely unlikable and do it in a natural way that doesn't seem forced. It doesn't seem like they're acting. It honestly got almost difficult to distinguish Kaitlyn Dever from her character of Belle Gibson, the woman who faked having brain cancer for years. Honestly, Dever seems like a really kind person. So the way that she taps into this type of person, someone so chaotically narcissistic and starving for attention, might be deserving of some type of recognition during award season. Maybe not award winning, but at least a nomination or two. But with that, would that be too ironic given the subject matter? I don't know. Regardless, Kaitlyn Dever does a fantastic job here. And it's because of this role that I am now more open to her being Abby on The Last of Us, because at first I wasn't really sure. I thought she was an interesting pick for sure, but now I'm confident. But on that note, let's talk about a few things here, a few issues that this show very clearly has. This show, to me, feels empty in its delivery, its execution, and its landing. Oof, I know. I mean, perhaps if you're a hardcore Kaitlyn Dever fan, but if you're a true crime lover like myself, it was just meh. And the ending, oh boy, that ending lost a lot of points with me. Following the story became more of a chore than a pleasure, which is something you don't want for your product designed for entertainment. Perhaps the chaotic ending and the storytelling format that they chose clashed too much with my ADHD, because the scripts for the entirety of this limited series are so messy. So much so that it ultimately becomes nothing but confusing and a little frustrating and incredibly difficult to follow, and at least for me. So once it becomes confusing, it sort of becomes boring. And honestly, this show is a tad boring. At face value, you do get some seemingly good shock value moments just because of who Belle Gibson is and what she's done, but the show fails to deliver the gravity of the consequences of Belle Gibson scamming. I mean, sure, they say the consequences of her actions, and they say it often. She is killing people because of her actions. She could possibly be harming so many people because of her lies. Those phrases and variations thereof are repeated all throughout the series, but we're never really shown them except for one example. But for me, I didn't really connect with the family because we never really saw them after their first appearance super early on, and I honestly forgot about them. So when they brought up the kid again, I was like, wait, who's this? And that's the thing, I've seen other TV shows do a better job at setting up and delivering these gut punch reveals. This just felt chaotic to me, mainly because the story shifts perspective on the fly, and it jumps from one time period to another time period and expects you to have followed just because of what they're wearing. But honestly, I kind of thought it was just another day, and it wasn't. And all of that is part of the creative format that the showrunner has chosen for the series. But it's also one of the reasons that the show is difficult to follow. So was it a good creative choice? I would say no. And for only being 6 episodes, these episodes are mega long. Some episodes feel like 2 episodes that meshed into one, so by the time you're done with that episode, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still on the first episode. And it's not episode 3, and we get to episode 3, and at that point, you just want to turn on the 1.5 times speed button. And I'm not confirming that is what I did, but I'm also not denying that is what I did. All I'm saying, it's not good optics for the show. And what really drove me to be frustrated with this show and to be really bored with the show were the characters. Oh boy, nearly every single one of these characters is completely unbearable. Watching this show got difficult at times because there's absolutely nobody to root for. And I know that sounds awful, but listen, I don't like entitlement and people treating people and saying, oh, it's just cancer. It's kind of garbage. And I'm not even talking about Belle Gibson. We already know she's despicable. I'm talking about the good guys. Everyone in Apple Cider Vinegar is an awful person. And I honestly don't think there was ever any other goal for this show other than tell a hot button story, make it unique and creative. Nothing after that, and it kind of shows. Because every episode begins with Belle Gibson wasn't paid for the recreation of her story, which is a reference to the fact that Belle Gibson kept getting paid for interviews after the fact. And that is insane in of itself because she somehow kept getting money. But you'd never actually know because the show doesn't bother to tell you what happens after 2015 for Belle and crew. If you see my previous reviews, you might have heard me say, and then it just sort of ends. And when I say that phrase, it's never a good thing. No spoilies, but this show sort of just ends. It doesn't do the recap and writing that most biopics and most bioseries do at the end to kind of bring you up to speed on the last few years or just to give you the little final conclusion for the story. It's crucial, it's important, you need it for closure. Instead, they start to type out in 2017 and then they stop and then they quite literally tell you, go Google it yourself. Which is insanity to me because why make a 6-hour-long series about a person that you seemingly hate only to then say, just do it yourself? How lazy, how incredibly lazy. That is the laziest thing I've ever seen. I get it, you don't like the person, so why did you make the show about her? Lazy. I must ask the question then, what was the point of this show? What was your goal? It seems like you had none. You brought awareness to nothing and you gave no conclusion. So what even was the point? Don't get me wrong, there's heart, there's good intentions behind this series. It's just, it wasn't really the best set up or the best told. It's that jumbled, time jumpy format that makes Apple Cider Vinegar just super hard to follow. If you've got massive ADHD, this will not keep your attention, unfortunately. I understand it though. The showrunners wanted to show and not tell, but they showed so much to the point where you're like, I'm confused. I feel a little bit of FOMO. Can I be clued in onto what's happening here? In the end, Kaitlyn Dever delivers a compelling and dedicated performance to her role as Belle Gibson. This show, however, is a rough watch. At least it was for me. And this isn't one that I would honestly, personally recommend. Is it that bad? No, but the ending is incredibly lazy and it is one that is kind of frustrating, and I did kind of tell someone without telling the rest of what happened there, like, that seems dumb, and I said, it is. Am I being too harsh? Maybe, but I do have a higher standard this year, so Apple Cider Vinegar lands with a 6.7 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you watch Apple Cider Vinegar? Unfortunately, what did you think? It's okay if you liked it. I just did not. It did not jive with me. And performance alone isn't enough to carry the rest of the show. The rest of the show isn't great. My social media links are in the description below, and I will see you next time. You've just been Montified.